Welcome into the Boston Sports Summit. I am your host, Tim Barner, where we got a big show for you today. We're going to be talking about the Red Sox and Lucas Giolito's new injury, which, it just keeps getting better for the Red Sox, isn't it? Also, we have the Celtics and the Bruins, who somehow were able to manage to blow two leads late in their respective games. And for the Celtics, what does that mean? Because they came off a massive annihilation of the Golden State Warriors on Sunday. And for the Bruins, with the trade deadline just 2 days from now, is it time to blow it up? They didn't play well against the Islanders on Saturday. They dominated the Leafs on Monday. And then last night you had that. Is it time to blow it up? And then we have the Patriots, and man, the Dynasty, in my opinion, just keeps getting better and better for me to talk about. Because what went on with the Dynasty and how they are portraying Bill Belichick, along with Aaron Hernandez's story in the latest episode, which is episode 6. I want to watch it. Like, there are some good parts to it. But, God, are they really screwing Belichick over. But first and foremost, I want to talk about channel media and market research and the New England Sports Survey fan opinion poll for 2023 and 2024. Yes, this survey just came out. It was a poll of 16,000 people all across New England. It was conducted between February 22nd, 2024 and March 2nd of 2024. Like I told you, it was over 16,000 to be exact. 16,411 qualified surveys were contained in this report. The respondents were from either Connecticut, Mass, Maine, New Hampshire, or Vermont. They followed at least one team for half the time. They were males and females over the ages of 18 and can only do one per household. And they had to complete the entire survey. That was one of the biggest things with this was partial survey completions were not counted. And to get things started, they looked at a lot of different factors, right? They looked at a lot of different factors. And I wanted to go through a few of them because I thought they were really significant in what New England fans are thinking. Because listen, this is a show about Boston sports. I am a Boston sports fan. I have my own opinions, but I know there are plenty of people, not only across the great area that is New England, but there's a lot of Boston sports fans across the country. So to be able to get an opinion poll and see what the fans are thinking, I think is really beneficial. So let's start off with your favorite sports teams. Obviously, the Patriots, are coming in number one at 45%, even though they went 4-13 this past season. Meanwhile, the Red Sox and Celtics are tied at 19%, which I thought was surprising. And I'll get into that in just a minute. Next, we have the Boston Bruins at 14%. And finally, we have the New England Revolution at 3%. And I'm going to be honest with you, on this show, I don't really talk Revs unless they somehow win a championship, but I don't really follow soccer, let alone the Revs. So mostly it's going to be the Pats, Celtics, Red Sox, Bruins on this show. But just for the sake of argument, this is how the survey turned out. The Patriots went 4-13 this season and have not done well for the last 3 to 4 seasons, you could argue. Yes, they made the playoffs in 21, Mac Jones' rookie year, but it's still, they still weren't good. They're kind of like the Red Sox, but they were better than the Red Sox. Let's put it that way. And over the last, decade, basically 12 years, since they've been doing this, which is since 2012, the Patriots have reigned supreme. They've been the number one. I mean, football in this country right now reigns supreme. That is just a clear fact. And next, the Red Sox and Celtics, I found were interesting, being tied at 19%, because the Red Sox, as I have talked about time and time and time again, and I'm going to continue to talk about it a little bit, not a lot, a little bit tonight. The ownership either wants to go number one and win championships, or the Red Sox ownership wants to be dead last. There's no in between for this team. They are either going to win the championship or they're going to finish in last place. And seeing it's been 3 of the last 4 years, they have finished dead last. Yeah, I am surprised that 19% voted the Red Sox as their favorite team, when the Celtics are up, basically on the rise. I know you had Colin Cowherd call them the Bills, and I'm going to talk about that a little later because I think that's just utterly nonsensical and stupid. But the Celtics, young team, they're on the rise. They are trending in an upward direction, and they look primed to win the championship this season. They are tied with the Red Sox, who the ownership lies to you, doesn't care about you, raise prices while being cheap on their own product. Really? 19% of fans of that 16,000? It's weird. And the funny part is, it's not like the Red Sox, have been last before. Like, they have been in second place. Their highest percentage was obviously in 2013. They finished 33%. They won the championship that year. And in 2018, they were up to 30%. But over the last 5 years, since 2019, they've been 26%, 22, 21, 19, and now 19. Meanwhile, the Celtics from that time frame were 10%, 16, 13, and 21, 18% last year, and now 19%. So I find it interesting that the Celtics didn't surpass the Red Sox, and I'm surprised with the Red Sox finishing last 3 of the last 4 years, refusing to pay, lying to you, all of that, you still have them ranked second among all Boston sports teams. And then for the Bruins, with the Bruins, I think it's just evident that they are going to flip-flop with the Celtics. When they are at their peak, they are very good, but they're still not going to touch the Red Sox. They're not going to touch the Patriots. Football is king. Red Sox are just, it has nothing to do with baseball. It's Fenway, and the team has been here for over 100 years. So, I can understand, but honestly, another generation from now, I wouldn't be surprised if the Red Sox are dead last very soon in this poll. And then the next one I want to talk about was ownership performance. Which of the following teams' ownership do you believe has done the best job with their team over the past year? And that's not hard to guess because, as you can see, the Celtics and Wick Grossback, Steve Pagliuca, and the Boston Basketball Partners are ranked supreme at 48%, followed up by the Jacobs family at 23%, Robert Kraft and the Patriots at 12%, Robert Kraft and the Revolution at 11%, and then the Red Sox ownership of John Henry, Tom Warner, and the Fenway Sports Group at 6%. And that surprises me that 6% rank the Red Sox ownership that high. In 2021, they ranked at 18%, but since 2019, so since they won their last World Series in 18, the Red Sox ownership has ranked 6% in 19, 5% in 2020, 18% in 21, where, don't forget, that's where they've reached the ALCS against the Astros and lost in 6 games. And then last year they ranked at 4%, and now this year they're at 6%. So looking at that, I am, just surprised that, you have 6% of all those fans who ranked the Red Sox ownership as doing a, good job over the past year. I find that just utterly absurd. And then going to kind of like a spinoff, you have team leadership. Okay, which of the following teams' leadership do you believe has done the best job during their most recent / current season? And as you can see, Brad Stevens and the Boston Celtics ranked number 1 at 51%. Cam Neely and the Bruins rank at 36%. Bill Belichick and the Pats at 8%. Brian Belayo, Bruce Arena, Kurt on foul. They had some issues going on with Bruce Arena. They rank at 3%. And then Kyan Bloom and the Red Sox at 2%. Which, yes, thank you. That is the exact order. And not for nothing, I think with the Patriots being ranked at 8%, which is a far cry from where they ranked last year. Last year, they ranked at 35%. And last year, that's wild because they finished second, 20 percentage points higher than the Bruins and 3 percentage points less than the Celtics. And I can't believe they've ranked that highly due to the fact they hired Matt Patricia and Joe Judge to run the offense, completely ruining Mac Jones, those two boobs, to run their offense. Had no reason to be offensive coordinators, plural, on that staff. And so that was, like astounding to me. They ranked that highly last year. But then to see, obviously, 4 and 13, them go down to 8, sounds about right. And this next one I found very interesting to see how New England sports fans feel. Because the following question, which of the following coaches and managers do you admire the most for the way they coach / manage? Can you guess who number 1 is? That's right. It is Bill Belichick of the New England Patriots. This past year, New England sports fans, the 16,411 fans, ranked Bill Belichick, 40% of them admired him the most. Then you had Joe Mazzulla of the Celtics, Jim Montgomery of the Bruins, Alex Cora of the Red Sox at 10%, which I thought was a little surprising. And then Bruce Arena and the Revolution, obviously, and Kurt on follow there at 4%. But Bill Belichick coming in at number 1 as the most admired coach by New England sports fans. And I actually like that because a lot of the talk with Bill recently has obviously been he's nothing without Brady. He's nothing without Brady, and it's kind of driven me up a wall because I am one of the guys that, I'm not going to take sides. Both of them needed each other. And that was something I found interesting, like that people in New England still liked Bill, for all his faults, for all his anger issues, you could call it, his lack of trust in the media, not surprising. He comes in at number 1 as the most admired coach, and I don't blame people. For winning 6 Super Bowls, for coming into an organization that has been historically, not good, and then winning with a backup quarterback, parlaying that into 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, parlaying that into a 16-0 season. The Dynasty is going through it. They are ruining, I think, trying to ruin Bill Belichick's reputation. I'll get more into that later in the show. But I'm glad. I'm glad that 40% of that 16,000 respect and admire Bill Belichick for what he's done. And it I was glad to see that. The follow-up question, though, which I found a little bit more intriguing, was please rate the job you believe each of the following have done running or managing their team over the most recent / current season. This one, obviously, Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla are coming in number one on top at 59%. Cam Neely and Don Sweeney at 49%. Then you have Belichick at 17%. Then you have the Revolution with Brian Vallejo, Bruce Arena, Kurt Onfollow at 13%, followed by Kyan Bloom at 5%. And yes, I'm sorry to all you, Bloominatis out there. Kyan Bloom definitely deserves some of the blame for how he treated the Red Sox organization, and he rightfully has 5%. So it's bothersome to me that people, listen, John Henry's numero uno in why the Red Sox suck and why they continue to just be the worst team in this city right now. But Kyan Bloom definitely deserves some of the blame because he didn't have the cojones to stand up and say, no, listen, we need starting pitching. We need an elite bat right now. I am going to go make a trade. He refused to do that, and this is the team that we have right now. But Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla are definitely number one in this town, even though I have a lot of issues with Joe Mazzulla. I have a lot of issues that I am not entirely sure. Can this team can this team win it all? Can they get over that hump? Especially after that game last night. Again, more on that later. And then we have the management performance ratings. So as I just detailed out there, that was what fans think as, their job performance in terms of the totals, right? But then when you break it down of each individual, team, if you could see that, obviously, please rate the job you believe. 7 being excellent, 1 being poor. Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla get a massive bump. Obviously that 59% that I showed in the previous slide, right? 59%. It comes from people rating them a 7 or a 6 combined. So either very good or excellent. Then Cam Neely and Don Sweeney, 34 at 6, 15% at 7 being excellent. Belichick getting 7% at excellent and 10% at 6. Bruce Arena and the Revs getting 4% excellent, 9% at 6. And then Kyan Bloom getting 2% excellent, 3% at 6. Now, I wish they could have done something like this on John Henry. But we'll talk about it in a little bit, right? Because he definitely deserves a lot of blame. And I'll continue to say that. The next one was the change in the past year. All right. So with the change in the past year, how do you feel the teams are doing? Are they changing for the better? Celtics, absolutely. 80% of that 16,000 went with the C's, are definitely in for the better. 38% went with the Bruins. Surprisingly, the Revolution got 26% of the vote. Meanwhile, 4% for the Red Sox and 2% for the Patriots. I can't believe that people went with the Red Sox over the Patriots, because at least with the Patriots, you have an owner that is fighting for a Hall of Fame candidacy. And with how the Dynasty, documentary is turning out for him, he is a hell of a lot more inclined to change the team for the better. And with John Henry, He's got the Penguins, the PGA, the Roush Fenway Racing, Liverpool. He couldn't give two shits about the Red Sox. He couldn't. So I don't know why people think, 4% of people thought the Red Sox were changing for the better over the Patriots. But maybe that's because they might have been influenced by the dynasty itself. Who knows? Meanwhile, have they pretty much stayed the same? The Revs get the majority. I wonder how many people who voted on the Revs, legitimately followed the Revs with all of their might. I don't know if they were able to get if one person, so like if I was voting on this, I don't know if I could choose all 5 options and pick where I thought they were, or would I only get one team to vote for and pick one of these 3 options? I don't know. I'm just guessing it's, I would be able to choose from all 5 teams and then pick where they rank. And the fact that somebody like myself, who I openly admit don't really follow the Revs, I would probably keep them right at the same because I wouldn't know. So I wonder how many of that 63% actually followed the Revs, all like every single day. Meanwhile, Bruins 54%. Yeah, that is right on the money. Meanwhile, the Red Sox and Patriots 43, 42% respectively, and the Celtics at 20%. I can't believe 20% said they're staying the same. Shipping out Marcus Smart, Robert Williams, I thought was definitely a gutsy but right move for them. And then, of course, changing for the worse, Celtics at 0, Bruins at 8, Revs at 11, Red Sox at 53%, and Patriots at 56%. Like, damn. There's a lot going on there. And then we have the top best things in sports. And what I loved about this was the fact that it was all unaided. Every single one of these was written in by the fans, and they just compiled it into what they thought, right? So the people at Channel Media and Market Research did not give these answers, right? And then the fans just picked from it. No, fans wrote this in. So the top best things that happen in Boston sports. Number 1, Celtics going to the conference finals is 21%. Red Sox parting ways with Kyan Bloom at 20. The Patriots parting ways with Bill Belichick at 19. Celtics current playing record so far at 14. The Bruins current playing record at 12. The Celtics offseason getting Porzingis and Holiday at 10%. Bruins 2022-2023 overall record. Last season's overall record at 7%. Mac Jones finally being benched for Bailey Zappi at 6%. The Celtics re-signing Jaylen Brown at 4%. And the New England Patriots getting a top 5 pick at 3%. Which I thought that was actually kind of funny, seeing that at the end there. The Patriots getting a top 5 pick is 3%. I thought that was pretty good. And then just to balance it out, the top 10 worst things to happen in sports. I know this might be a little difficult to read, but you have the New England Patriots 2023-24 disappointing /bad/poor season gets the top billing at 20%. Red Sox management being out of touch, not making moves, okay with missing the playoffs at 19%. Surprising how that didn't get top billing. But the way the Crafts handled their separation with Belichick is at 18%. Does that tell you something about how New England sports fans feel about Robert Kraft? I don't know. We might find out. And then the Patriots parting ways with Belichick, not just how it's handled, but parting ways with Belichick gets 13%. Celtics losing in said conference finals at 12%. Red Sox having a disappointing /bad/poor season last year at 10%. This was, I thought, hilarious and kind of spot on. At the first 9% where to watch games due to streaming issues. And if I can just take a moment to elaborate on that, streaming has become one of the dumbest things that entertainment industries have done, because there are times where Nesson makes you pay $30 a month for their crappy app. Okay, there's a lot of issues going on with the Nesson app, and it's still ridiculous. So you have to pay $30 for that. Then you have ESPN, which you have to pay what? $6, $7, $10. Actually, I think it's up to $10 now, a month for ESPN. And that's for any out-of-market game. If you live out of state, then that's what you have to go through is ESPN. On top of the fact you have to pay for cable, because if you live in the New England area, you don't have to pay for streaming services. You can get cable, which comes with Nesson, which comes with ESPN, but that costs extra. Then you have TNT for hockey. You have ABC for the Celtics. You have CBS. You have the NFL Network. You have all these different, platforms that, show games. I mean, the NFL tried something where they streamed that Kansas City-Miami game on a streaming service. I think it was Peacock. Like, what are we doing? Why do I have to spend money to go watch a freaking game? Can't just everything be condensed? Can't you have Nesson get all the Bruins and Red Sox games? Can't you have NBC Sports Boston get all the Celtics games, and then CBS or Fox get all the Pats games? It shouldn't be that hard, but it is. And then if you live out of state, you have to pay for all these streaming services. You have to pay for Nesson even if you don't get cable. It's mind-boggling to have to log in, do all these things. And now somebody like myself, like, I can log in, but if you listen to Felger and Maz, I know Felger, he gets so upset about how he has to log in and stuff like that. I mean, he goes a little over the top on it, but it is kind of crazy. And I'm with people to have to figure out, okay, which game is it on? I turn on Nesson and I get the friggin' fishing show, even though the Bruins are playing the Oilers right now, or something like that, And I don't like that. I don't like how it's not condensed, how you don't have it in one area. There are games where it's not on, Celtics games where it's not on NBC Sports Boston. It's either on TNT or ABC, or it's even on ESPN. Like, can we just please consolidate? And then the funny part is, I know a lot of people are saying this, that it's going to end up being, pay-per-view, for the playoffs, especially championships, which don't even get me started on that. But I can't stand it, because one day, what's going to happen is you're going to have all these streaming services that are going to end up condensing into one. They're all going to merge, and they're going to create something that's called, I don't know, cable. Like, hello, McFly, can we please just have Nesson carry the Red Sox and Bruins, NBC Sports Boston carry the Celtics, and then the NFL obviously does NFL things. Just keep it on CBS or Fox or NBC for Sunday night. Like, is that too hard to ask? I don't think so. But getting back to the worst things in sports, the other 9% was the Bruins getting knocked out of the first round of the playoffs. I think because we've had almost a full calendar year since that happened, only 9%, because I can tell you, I would have had this as number one over the Patriots, over the Red Sox, because that was just gut-wrenching. As much as I knew it was coming, it was absolutely gut-wrenching and just friggin' ridiculous. We lost to an inbred team like the Florida Panthers. And I know they're hockey players. I'm just saying, the Florida Panthers are an organization that nobody, except for one guy I know, has rooted for their whole life. Okay? talk about a fly-by fan base with the Panthers. So that being only 9%, I think, is due to recency bias. But Patriots not having a solid quarterback at 6, and then no championship since 2019 is at 3%. And yeah, it's been a hot minute since Boston teams have won a championship. But I am hoping and praying that the Celtics can be that team to overcome, because this city needs a championship, especially a Celtics championship. Because if we can win a championship this year, this young core is going to be dynamite. And I really hope that losing Smart helped out. Next, they went individual. Okay, so they went by individual teams, and we're going to start off with the Red Sox. And the funny part is, I got to show this to you because I loved how they graded each of these teams. Starting off with the Red Sox, we have in the upper corner here a nice fat D-. Love it. Love the D-. And starting off, you have, how would you rate each of the following Boston Red Sox? So for this, I also want to let you know, you only were able to respond to basically who followed the Red Sox for at least a half a season. So out of that 16,000, you had 9,682 respondents follow the Red Sox at least half of the time. And so because of that, how would you rate each of the following Boston Red Sox moves? Well, firing Kyan Bloom reigned supreme, obviously at 58% when you combine the 7 being excellent and 6 being very good. At 37% excellent, 21% very good. Only 2% of people thought it was a poor decision at 1. Then trading Chris Sale, and I loved how they threw in there trading Chris Sale and the $17 million to the Atlanta Braves for Vaughn Grissom. That got a 51% top 2 vote. 28% of people thought it was excellent. 23% thought it was very good. Hiring Craig Breslow as head of baseball ops. Only 14% of the people thought it was an excellent move, and 24% thought it was very good, creating that 38%. And then signing Liam Hendricks to a 2-year contract. 11 people thought it was excellent. 13% thought it was very good. Following up with the Red Sox, very next page. How much do you agree or disagree with the following statements about the Boston Red Sox? The first statement being, I have complete faith in Alex Cora as the GM of the Boston Red Sox. That reigned number 1 at 27%. 11% of people completely agreed. 16% of people agreed, whereas 12% of people voted 1 and completely disagreed. And to some degree, I don't blame them due to the fact that we don't know how Alex Cora as the GM would do. We've only seen him as manager, and that's the role that he has come in on outside of being a player. The following statement, I believe that the Boston Red Sox will turn it around this season. Surprisingly, 25% of people rated at a 7 or a 6. 12% completely agreed, whereas 13% of people agreed with that, and 14% of people completely disagreed. And to that, I would say the 25% who agreed with it, to the 25%, I want to talk to you directly. You are delusional. Absolutely delusional to think that this Red Sox team, the 2024 Boston Red Sox, will, quote, turn it around this season. Delusional. Okay? You're delusional. And in the following statement, I have complete faith in John Henry and Tom Warner as the ownership group of the Boston Red Sox. And I am going to read off the numbers. 8% completely agree. 13% voted a 6. 15% voted a 5. 13 at 4. 26 at 3. 11 at 2. And 14% completely disagree. And I can't believe that they got 21% of people voted a 6 or a 7. And yet, did I say, 21% voted a 6 or 7. And then 25% voted it a 1 or a 2. A lot of people came in at a 3. And to those people who voted 3, 4, and 5, have you not been paying attention? Have you been just, hiding behind a rock? Because it's wild to me. It's absolutely wild to me. They lied to you. They raised the prices. They tell you we are not going to spend as much money. And yet you're going to say, well, I don't know. I mean, I have some faith that John Henry and Warner are a good ownership group, but I'm just going to play it safe. I'm going to err on the side of disagree with a 3, but I'm not going to say I completely disagree. No, this should have been a easy, 90% of people should have voted somewhere between a 1 or a 2 of just disagreeing completely or just slightly. But you guys, I mean, some of you have just been, I guess, maybe living under a rock. You really, truly don't follow the Red Sox, or you do in the dog days of summer. That's it. Or you just go to Fenway because it's the experience. You don't care what is going on the field. And to that, I will call you the Pink Hats. Yes, bringing back that term from when Jacoby Ellsbury was on the team and how you had all these girls who were like, I love Jacoby Ellsbury. Yeah, what position does he play? He's a catcher, right? Yeah, he's a catcher, honey. Yeah, Jacoby Ellsbury, a catcher. Pink Hat. That's to all my 3, 4, and 5ers on having complete faith in John Henry and Tom Warner as, in running the Red Sox. Crazy. And going on after that, because the Red Sox, how can they improve, right? That's really the $1 million question. How can they improve, right? So, for starters, you have 23% of Red Sox fans saying they need to acquire better, more solid starting relief and closing pitching, which is absolutely true, 100% valid. But then, thank you to the 22% of you who had the balls to write in, because again, all of these are write in. The channel media and market research did not give these people these answers. Every single answer here was written in. 22% of you said, have ownership get on the same page and stop lying to the fans. Act like you care about the team winning. Yes. Thank you. Thank you to the 22% of you who had the balls to call out the ownership in this little segment right here. All right? Because that was the kicker. And then to move on, obviously, they need to spend money wisely on good players who care about winning. I don't even care about wisely. Just spend the damn money. Spend money. You're third as an ownership group in the world in how much you rake in. Third. So just spend money. You're going to be fine. 15% of people thought get Theo Epstein more involved, put him back in charge. I wouldn't mind that. If he wants to get back in charge, take over for Greg Breslow, or convince Breslow to grow a pair and, fight John Henry, then do it. And then 8% of people said stop putting an inferior product on the field and raising ticket prices. I want to take that 8% and move it to that 22%, because that's basically the same thing. Having ownership get on the same page and stop lying to the fans. Yes, you saw it. And I'll even show it to you right here. Stop lying to the fans. You're an ownership group. You shouldn't be lying to us. You don't need to lie to us. Just tell it how it is. And because the problem with lying is when we find you out, because we will find out, you're going to create more bad blood like you see currently. So 22%, thank you. And to that 8%, stop putting an inferior product on the field and stop raising ticket price at the same time. That deserves to be with that 22%. So that's 30% of people went against Red Sox ownership. And I'm going to break it up a little bit here. I'm going to cut to the Celtics because there's a lot that is going on right now with this survey. And I want to cut to the Celtics because what they did last night against Cleveland was just a slap in the face. Was a slap in the face to how good this team can be. They had a 22-point lead with 9 minutes remaining. And before I continue on, I just want to give EJ from Boys in the Zone a shout out. Appreciate you, EJ. Had to come on the show, show some. Can I read? Had to come show some love for my guy, Tim. Appreciate you, man. He's got a great show. If you guys are interested in the Cowboys, EJ's your guy, Boys in the Zone. Go check it out on the Grid Network. But getting back to it, Celtics blowing a 22-point lead with 9 minutes remaining. It is the largest blown lead in the fourth quarter since 96-97. I mean, it's just been wild. You know, how actually not since 96. Actually, is what, like 2019, something like that. Regardless, a stupid lead with that amount of time remaining. And Tatum, God, him and Missoula, this is what frightens me. And I got into it a little bit with some of the guys, Barry Grant Jr. and Alfred, who Alfred doesn't have a show, but he is our graphics guy. Did a great job with my graphics here on the Boston Sports Summit. You know, he is a great guy. Same with Barry. He's got his show, the All Even podcast. So check those out as well. But we got into it a little bit, talking about, you know, Tatum and, you know, the Celtics and can they win it all? And I'm discussing the fact that this team is prized to win a championship. They are clearly the best team by far, but I still don't trust them, which is perfectly valid. I can sit here and say that they are ready to win a championship, but until they do, I don't have 100% faith. I mean, with Tom Brady and the Patriots, it was clear as day. The Patriots played 2 games a year, the AFC Championship and the Super Bowl. Between 2011 and 2019, it was 2 games a year. Even the divisional round was kind of a joke of a game. You know, they slipped up, but it was only because they took it way too lightly. They could take it lightly and still win. But the Patriots played twice a year, and that was the AFC Championship game in the Super Bowl because I had that faith in Brady. Do I have the faith in Tatum and Missoula? No, I don't. Why? Because of what you saw last night. Now, you could say, Tim, it's a regular season game. You know, there's no need to overreact. And if you want to react to anything that I'm saying tonight, you can hit me up below. As you can see, all my social medias are across the board. You have the Boston Sports Summit on Instagram. You can check out all my clips, my shorts, and all my live thoughts there. You also have my Twitter or X, Boss Sports Summit. That's even more live reactions. I'm on Twitter basically all the time, or X. I keep calling it. I can't help it. And then you can see all the there it is. And then all my stuff on YouTube, Boston Sports Summit. But I am worried because you have this moment where Jason Tatum in clutch time is not good. He has struggled this season. when he has the ball when Boston has the ball, the whole team, in the last 5 seconds of the fourth quarter and overtime to either tie or take the lead, the Celtics as a team are 0-9, and Tatum himself is 0-5, courtesy of Boston Sports Inf on X. So go follow that page. He's got a lot of great stats and information about this type of stuff. But looking at that, why? You are so damn talented. How can you not, follow through? Like, why does it have to be one guy is the main guy and everybody just gangs up on him? That's what it feels like when watching this team in the final seconds of a game. We saw it with Denver. Tatum doing that terrible shot because the whole clock sped up in his mind. Then you have him dribble the ball 19 times. Chris Forsberg wrote about this on NBC Sports Boston, and I agree. 19 times in 19 seconds, he put that ball to the floor. Why? You have 19 seconds. You even got the matchup that you wanted on a guy that's half his size. And what does he do? He tries to fade away. He's half your size. You're down one. Drive in on him. Body him. Drive your shoulder into the middle of his chest. Knock him on his ass if you have to. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. This is the 2024 NBA. If you knock him on his ass, it's a charging call. That's right. I'm sorry. I know, because the NBA is so soft now. And also, Joe Mazzulla, you have 2 timeouts into that final 19 seconds. And apparently, you were trying to call a timeout in the final 4 seconds. Why did they not call that timeout for you? If you were trying so frantically to call a timeout, how come the refs didn't hear you and try to grant you that timeout? Because you desperately needed it. It's stupid. It's absolutely stupid. Tatum crosses over half court with 19 seconds left. Timeout on the floor, Celtics. You have 2. You're not going to take him into the next game with you. So why not just call it? Go over with your team. What is going on in this situation? It's a situation game. And that right there is a perfect coaching moment. That right there is something like I could see Eric Spoelstra getting right. And again, I don't believe that coaches have a lot to do with winning NBA championships. But for situations like that, yeah, they're kind of damn important. And so they need to clean that up. They need to clean that up come playoff time. And I hope they do. Meanwhile, before last night's game, I was ready to come in riding high, saying, well, the Celtics have won 12 straight. Probably not even going to mention last night's game, but the way it just fell apart the way it did, of course I had to bring it up. Because prior to that, if I did my show on Monday, it would have been everything is awesome. Everything is awesome. And because they were winning, they won 11 straight. They defeated a red-hot Mavs team who came into the TD Garden at 8-2. Luka and Kyrie looked like they were playing well with one another. And they just they defeated them pretty handily. Then you have I don't want to say a reeling Golden State Warrior team. Steph Curry was questionable with a knee. He did end up playing. But when Steph Curry is off, you took advantage of it, and it was wild. Beating them by 51 points. Steph Curry going 0 for 9 from 3, scoring only 4 points the entire game because he sat out the whole second half. I mean, I was ready to come in, ride high. And the only thing I really want to talk about was the Kyrie boos and how Jaylen Brown in the post-game press conference was saying that, well, the fans should boo all the superstars. This is what so just to talk about that for a quick second. I feel like Jaylen Brown is so good friends with Kyrie that he refuses to understand why Celtics fans are booing Kyrie. He refuses to understand that. And that is kind of just, not even kind of, it's ridiculous. Jaylen, get it through your thick skull. We hate him because he lied to us, just like the Red Sox and Sam Kennedy and Tom Warner. They lied to us. All right? Kyrie, I'll come back if you'll have me. Meanwhile, plotting his exit the entire time, giving up in that playoff series against Milwaukee, when I would say we were arguably the better team. And then he goes to Brooklyn with Kevin Durant. So, dude, we don't boo him because he's a good player. We boo him because he spurned us. As fans, spurned us. So stop sitting there getting all frustrated at the fans, at us, because you refuse to understand why we boo him. You know, you keep listening, you keep drinking the Kyrie Irving Kool-Aid of saying, I don't know why they boo me. They just probably boo me because I'm a great player. That's why. And Jaylen Brown gets all frustrated and butthurt at that. You know? Which, again, I think, and I wasn't at the Garden for the Nuggets game, but I bet a lot of fans were actually excited when Nikola Jokic touched the ball. Whereas when Kyrie touches the ball, yes, I think that he absolutely deserves to get booed because of how he played mind games with Celtics fans, myself included. You know, so Jaylen, I'm sorry, but spare me your, oh, well, I think Celtics fans should all, boo all the great players, all the superstar players. No, we're only going to boo LeBron because we can't stand LeBron, obviously. And we boo Kyrie because he played for us. He played for us and he spurned us. So, yeah, like that was really what I wanted to come into today talking about. But, of course, a 22-point lead with 9 minutes remaining in the fourth, yeah, I think it's a little bit of a bigger topic. And speaking of blown leads, because the Boston Bruins blew their 1-goal lead against the Oilers last night and subsequently lost in overtime. Now, this game, both games were actually going on at the same time, which was actually kind of nice. You could actually switch back and forth. One was in commercial. You go to the other one that was watching, that goes commercial. You can watch the other one. So, but if you have streaming services, you can't do that because one's on Nest and the other's on NBC Sports. You have to get out of that. It's these friggin' streaming services. Again, I can go all day on that. But the Bruins blow a 1-goal lead against the Oilers in the final minute of the game. And the thing that I have with that was Danton Heinen had a beautiful attempt at an empty net. The puck was going down the near side boards. And you had Danton Heinen who foolishly got to center ice. And meanwhile, the puck just got over the blue line. So it's in the Bruins offensive zone. And there's no goalie. Dan Heinen gets to center ice on the near side boards. And he looks to see Ryan Nugent-Hopkins coming at an angle at him. And one of the reasons, because he looked, that slowed him up. As my father always taught me when I'm running to first base, never look, just run. Because when you turn your head and you try to find where the ball is, if it got by or if they scooped it up, that's inherently going to slow you down. Secondly, because Dan Heinen's a left shot, he just beat Ryan Nugent-Hopkins to the puck in the offensive zone. But he decided to put the puck on his forehand, so he had to naturally turn to fire the puck. And what happens? The puck just misses the goal. It went just to the right of the near post, going just on the outside of it. And that could have solidified the game for the Bruins, making it a 2-0 game. And then the funny part was the puck then got pinned up against the boards for about what felt like 30 seconds. And there's still no goalie. I was expecting a Edmonton guy to skate off for the goalie to come back with the puck pinned, and it never happened. And, of course, the Bruins didn't have it. Next thing you know, there's an offensive zone faceoff, which Charlie Coyle lost that key defensive zone faceoff. Did I say offensive? I meant defensive zone faceoff. And they end up scoring. It was 6-on-5. Somehow the puck went right over Allmark's head, and they tied it up, which the game went to overtime. And then, of course, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. I mean, those guys are going to score. They're too damn talented. They're too damn good, especially when you give them that much offensive ice. I mean, the reason why fighting is, when guys go off for fighting, 5-minute major for fighting, and it still remains a 5-on-5 game, it's because Wayne Gretzky was too damn good, and a lot of his teammates would get into fights so that it was a 4-on-4 game, and Gretzky, with all that ice, would just skate around everybody and score almost every time. So that's why fighting is a 5-on-5. And it was just, and so with Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid being on a 3-on-3, having all of that ice in the world, as long as they have possession, I mean, it's almost a foregone conclusion, you can assume, especially when it comes to the Bruins. And again, similar to the Celtics, I was going to come in here talking about how the Bruins had that awful, and I mean just awful, loss against the Islanders. And I was ready to be like, send them all. Get rid of them all. Mason Lohrei, stay. Matthew Poitras, stay. David Pastrnak, stay. Jeremy Swayman, stay. Everyone else, see ya. Get out. And Marchand, stay. Everyone else, bye-bye. But then they followed it up with that decisive victory against Toronto, which, again, another high-octane offense. And they were able to win, I think, 4-1? And so and then, of course, last night's game, they held a shutout for 59 minutes against Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. But they couldn't do it. They couldn't finish the job. If Danton Heinen was a right-handed shot or he went to his backhand, he would have scored that goal, that empty netter. If he's just hustled and skated as hard as he could, because there were strides that looked like he was gliding more than striding, or at least trying to hustle. But I know it's the end of the game. Even still, I can still get on players for that. So I was ready to just sit there and actually contemplate whether or not we need to shake things up here with the Bruins. Because on the one hand, they looked as bad as they did against the Islanders. But then against the Maple Leafs and, for the most part, against the Oilers, they were dominant. They were in control. So I was really coming in here wondering if I had to shake everything up. And even though I'm kind of on the fence, I still say we need to shake it up. I still say DeBrusk needs to go. Allmark needs to go. Lindholm, I think he has a place. He's just very injury prone, and the guy has to perform come playoffs. McAvoy absolutely can stay. I forgot about him as my no trade. Yeah, he's definitely a no trade guy. But this team needs a shakeup. I'm sorry. This team is too damn comfortable, and they are too damn spotty. You know, they play just hard enough to get the point. They have 15 overtime points, which in other words means 15 overtime losses. So this team desperately, and I mean desperately, needs a shakeup. And so I'm going to get back. I'm going to hustle through the rest of this survey here, but I will be talking about it some more next week, maybe a little bit more in depth on these later pieces. But just to go back, so for the Patriots on their survey, they come in at a very, very interesting D. So again, D, 23, 24 grade. Good. And as you can see, this I loved. I love this question. They've been doing this, obviously, since 2020. Now that Tom Brady has been gone for 3 seasons, who do you now believe is the most responsible for the Patriots' success while Brady was here? This season, Tom Brady gets the vast majority of the 3 guys. 30% to 8 to 2. I don't think Kraft deserves 2. I think at most 1%, just because he hired Bill when a lot of people in the NFL at the time were telling him not to. And 42%, which is my camp, think it's Brady and Bill, because come on, let's face it, it's exactly that. You know, Belichick was the guy, I think, for the first half of the dynasty. And then Brady was the guy for the second half. And I hate the fact that Joe Montana and Bill Walsh never get questioned. Terry Bradshaw, Chuck Noll never get questioned. And that's where I kind of sit there and go, so if these guys are never questioned, why is it Bill and Tom have to be questioned? You know, that's because Tom Brady needed Bill Belichick as much as Bill Belichick needed Tom Brady. So, you know, I'm hearing, you know, that there are people who call people like me soft and think that, you know, I can't make up my mind. I don't have the balls to pick. No, because I'm nothing if not fair. Belichick and Brady are synonymous with one another. You cannot have Brady without Belichick, and you cannot have Belichick without Brady. Now, yes, did it help that Brady went on to win in Tampa? Absolutely. It helped his case for sure. But if you really think about it, a lot of stuff that Brady learned came from Belichick, and he was able to implement in Tampa. So spare me on the, you know, it's Brady. Now, if people say it's Belichick, you know, then I go, yeah, you're kind of stupid. But to say it's just Brady, I can't sit there and say that. I can't. Followed up with, how much do you agree or disagree with the following statements? For the Patriots, obviously, number 1 is completely disagree. 7 is completely agree. Number 1, right time to part ways with Bill Belichick. 40% of people completely agreed. 5% completely disagreed. And I'm in that completely agree camp. I do agree it was the right time to part ways with Belichick. And I am also completely agree with this next statement. I believe Bill can still be an excellent coach in the NFL. Absolutely. 29% completely agree, 3% completely disagree. Followed up with, believe the Pats will never find a head coach as good. 27% completely agree, 3% completely disagree. Belichick, or believe the Pats kept Belichick for too long as GM and head coach. 21% completely agree, 11% completely disagree. Believe the Pats made mistake parting ways with Belichick. 12% completely agree, 24% completely disagree, believing the Pats did make the wrong mistake parting ways with Belichick. That is, wait, did I read that right? I believe the Patriots made a mistake Friday ways. Oh, sorry. Nope. 24% completely disagree, meaning it was the right time to part ways. See, even that question got me a little confused. I had to reread that. And then the last one, I believe Mayo was the right choice to take over. 10% completely agree, 10% completely disagree. And then if you look at who's to blame, the general lack of talent on this team, 1,000% is 46% is the reason. Belichick's decision in coaching, I disagree with that. I don't think Belichick's decisions in coaching were the main reason, at least in game. Preparing and in game, absolutely not. If those decisions mean his, general manager and signing players and all of that, then okay, then I agree somewhat, but not both. Quarterbacks get 12% of the blame for why the Pats went 4-13. The offensive staff gets 10. The selections the Pats made in recent NFL drafts gets an 8% choice. Player injuries is 4%. Kraft family gets 2%. The special teams and defensive coaching staff completely escaped judgment on this with 0%, and 1% chose other. I really want to know what that other means. And if it relates to any of these prior selections, then come on. But I really want to know what that other represents, because I think that's absolutely hilarious. And next, we have the Boston Bruins. How would you rate each of the following Bruins? So keeping Jeremy Swayman as goalie, 1 is poor, 7 is excellent, 33% went with 7, 34% went with 6, and 1% went with poor. How would you feel about keeping Linus Ullmark as goalie? 31% went with excellent, 35% went with 6, and 1% chose 1 at poor. And then I don't know why they had this up here, but not allowing Milan Lucic to return to the team this season. 27% chose as excellent, and 8% thought that was a poor decision, even though he was accused, obviously, for his domestic abuse, which got acquitted. But I have no idea what's going on with that case, so I'm not going to say anything more about that. Then the next one, how much do you agree or disagree with the following statement about the Bruins? I have complete faith in Cam Neely as president. 31% chose 7, which means excellent. 0% chose poor. Wow. I don't think people have been paying attention for far too long to this team, or it's a lot of recency bias. Follow-up statement, I have complete faith in Jim Montgomery as the coach of the Boston Bruins. 29% chose 7 as excellent. 38% went with 6, and 0% went with poor. Okay. And then I have complete faith in Don Sweeney as general manager of the Bruins. 29% chose 7 as excellent. 32% went with 6, and 1% went with poor. Wow. The Bruins are getting just a lot of love in that regard. And I will admit, when it comes to their grade, yeah, as you can see, if you're watching on the Grid Network's YouTube channel, you can see I'm holding up a sign. The 23-24 grade so far this season, B+. So the Bruins coming out nice on those two. And then in their unaided write-in responses, again, love these because it just goes to show that, the group here, let the fans decide. In your opinion, what could the Boston Bruins, I forgot to edit that out. What could the Boston Bruins, if you're watching on the Grid Network's YouTube channel, you have to see what I'm talking about, do to improve their team? 18%, number 1, said rotate their goalies more to keep them fresh. Second was 16%, acquire another solid/great defenseman. 13% said acquire solid, good forward who can score. 7% said continue to add younger and develop younger talent. I agree with everything that has been stated so far, except the goalie thing. And then 5% add more free agents. So the only reason why I am against the goalie, keeping the rotation and fresh, because you need to know what you have in Jeremy Swayman. Jeremy Swayman has to be the guy. If he's not the guy, then we have an issue that stems more than you can imagine. Because I don't think Linus Ullmark is your future. He's 30 years old. He has a $5 million salary cap hit. And Swayman, you took the arbitration. He's butthurt over that, rightfully so. And you need to figure out what you're going to pay him because he's going to be a restricted free agent this season. And I guarantee you, there are going to be teams in the NHL that are going to want him and that are going to try their best to get him from you. Plus, you also have Brandon Bussi in Providence right now, who's a mammoth of a guy. I think he's like 6'5", 6'6", and he's not going to be able to clear waivers next season. So he's another guy you need to know what you have in. I don't think he's going to see any playing time unless the Bruins lock up the number 2 spot in the Atlantic Division. But hey, that's another guy that I want to see more of. I want to see Brandon Bussi and see how he looks and how he does because he's going to be a restricted free agent. And I don't think teams are going to come after him, but I want to make sure that I got, again, the Allmark or the Swayman to my Allmark. If Bussi is the Swayman to Allmark, meaning Swayman's the guy and then Bussi's behind him, that's what I want. That's what I want. So I want Allmark to be traded. I love Allmark. I think he's such a good person. He seems like such a good dude. I tweeted out the other day about this, story of, I think, a special needs guy in Sweden that is a big Bruins fan, and Allmark had a signed jersey for him. You can watch the video if you go on my X at Boss Sports Summit. It was just a really sweet video. Allmark retweeted it and commented, and and it just goes to show, like, I love stuff like that, and we need more of that. With the world and how crazy it is right now, we need more stuff like that. So I love it. And after I saw that video, I was definitely hurt because I'm like, I've been advocating for Allmark to get traded for since basically the end of last season, since our first round knockout. And it hurt because it is a business and you have to do cold things in order to win. And as much as I like Allmark and would love for him to remain and, be a Bruin, you also have to make the tough choices. And I'm sorry, Linus, but I don't think if we can ship you out of here, get a good return that can help us, not even this season, but the following years to come, we have to take that opportunity. And so that was tough. Then the last survey, don't worry, I got 2 more slides and then we're done. But is obviously on the Celtics. They got an A rating. I know it says 21-22 grade, but they deserved an A rating anyway, even though they had that tragedy that was the Eastern Conference Final last year. So in the survey, how would you rate each of the following statements by the Boston Celtics? Trading for Malcolm Brogdon and Robert Williams for Drew Holiday, 34% chose 7 as excellent, 25% went with 6, and then 0% went with poor. Man, the one thing about these Celtics questions, I would love to have seen it when they happened, because I feel like a lot of Celtics fans were pissed. Not about Brogdon, but about Robert Williams. I could be wrong, but I feel like we're looking at it right now because, again, if you remember, the survey was done between February 22nd and this past February 22nd and this past March 2nd. Okay, so I would love to see what these numbers would look like when they actually happen, especially this next one. Sending Marcus Smart to the Grizzlies as part of a 3-way deal that ultimately got Kristaps Porzingis to the Celtics. 15% said that it was excellent, 34% went with 6, and 0% went with poor. Also, hiring Joe Mazzulla as the full-time head coach, 7% went with excellent, 10% went with 6, 22% went with 4, which is dead center in the middle, and then 13% went with poor. And right now, some of these late game situations, I kind of would lean. I wouldn't go poor. I wouldn't choose one, but I would lean on the 3, maybe 2 at worst. And then lastly, signing Grant Williams to a multi-year deal, which was then flipped as a sign and trade to Dallas. 4% said that was excellent. 5% said that was poor. 41% gave it right down the middle at a 4. And then lastly, the top 5 possible improvements. Again, these were unaided, written in responses. 18% of the people said acquire a solid big man for the bench. 16% stop relying on the three-point shot and attack the paint at 16%. Look for Horford's replacement due to his possible retirement, which could be coming up at 12. Get a veteran player for confidence and to help train and teach the young guys at 11%. And then 9% of people wanted more mental toughness and be tougher in the playoffs. So this survey I thought was really, really interesting. And especially those last ones, I am definitely going to dive into more a little bit next week. Not the full thing. I'm not going to give you the whole rundown again, but next week, I'll talk a little bit more and kind of gather a little bit more of my thoughts on it, just because the survey did come out yesterday. So it was, or 2 days ago. So, oh no, yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. And then just to get going a little bit, the Red Sox here, the main story coming out of spring training in Fort Myers, Lucas Giolito has a partially torn UCL, which may require surgery and which will likely be done for the year. He's 29 years old with a player option for next season because he signed a 2-year deal, this year being his first year. Hey, Lucas, take the option now. Take the option now because he's making $19.25 million this season, which is actually funny because it's more than what Chris Sale's AAV is, Michael Walker's AAV is, and especially more than what Nathan Eovaldi makes. Thank you, Bloom. Thank you for letting Eovaldi walk. You morons. Especially because Eovaldi just won the World Series last year, which to that, Nathan, good for you, man. I'm glad you're killing it down in Texas. But I wish you were still in a Red Sox uniform. And same thing goes for you, Sale. You know? But the funny part is, Jordan Montgomery and Blake Snell are still out there. And I would love to sit here and say that they're going to sign either one or both, because they needed 2 starting pitchers. They signed Giolito. He's gone. And then you traded Chris Sale. So that is now -1. So now you need 3. Huh. Funny how that works, right? And last but not least, Dynasty. The Patriots and the Dynasty. What more can I say about this? Because I am so disgusted with how they framed this whole show. I saw a report from the director talked about, how fans are upset that it's not, it skipped over 03 and 04, and it's only bringing up the bad moments, and it's framing Belichick in a bad light. And the director goes, well, they cover that in the 3 Games to Glory. They cover all that and the other stuff. And it's like, I know, but this was supposed to be the comprehensive documentary that covered it all, because there was a lot of great moments. There was also a lot of shitty moments, and I got no problem bringing up those shitty moments. I don't. You need to, because they're just as much of the story as the good moments. But the gloss over all the good moments the way they have, disgusting. So episode 5 and episode 6. Episode 5 was about 08. Tom Brady tore his knee, and Matt Castle came in, and it kind of was Belichick's glory, even though 8.5 minutes into the show, they were already comparing, Brady's injury to Drew Bledsoe, and Matt Castle was going to be the guy to come in. I'm sorry, but no one, and I mean no one, in 2008, and yes, I remember, no one thought that we were going to have a repeat of Matt Castle becoming the next Tom Brady, going 11-5, which they did, and then going to the Super Bowl and winning it all. No one thought that, that even if that happened, that we were going to sit there and, and not have Brady back. It definitely would have made 2009 a hell of a lot more interesting, but Brady was the guy. There was no two ways about that. So 8.5 minutes in, you already have, Tom Brady Sr. comparing, oh, well, Tom was so upset and, he couldn't wait to get back out of the field because he had to fight for his job. No, it was Tom's. It was Tom's. Drew's injury and Tom's injury, two wildly different things, especially with what was going on at that time. And, call me cold or calculated, but the NFL is about winning games. So if you're going to sit there and tell me that Tom Brady was scared for all of that, I'm sorry. It's about winning games. Belichick did arguably one of his best coaching jobs with Matt Castle going 11-5. And if it wasn't for that freaking high school Wildcat offense, that Miami decided to hustle out there, the Patriots would have absolutely been in the playoffs. And I still get upset over that because it was a friggin' Wildcat offense and Ronnie Brown, and you can't stop that? I mean, come on. Crazy. But it was stupid. It was absolutely stupid that they would even think about comparing that. And then episode 6. This was supposed to be the episode that was ultra emotional. Deion Branch had to stop his interview because he was upset and had to walk out to compose himself to come back to finish his interview. And because it was all about Aaron Hernandez. They somehow fast forwarded 2009, 2010. They drafted in 2010, and that's where things got interesting because you had Brandon Lloyd talking about how he was sharing lockers and Welker scaring him, saying, dude, be careful with Hernandez. Something's wrong with him. Deion Branch living next door to him. It was wild. It was interesting to hear some of those stories because you didn't know, what the players were thinking. And again, even the players admitted there's some crazy shit that the players talk about in the locker room, but Hernandez took it to a whole other level. He took it to a whole other level. But what really bothered me was Bob Holler and the Crafts coming at Bill and saying that basically because Belichick didn't trade Hernandez and because they drafted him because of the talent that he had, that Odin Lloyd is dead because of Bill Belichick. They didn't say that, outright, but they absolutely implied it. Ernie Adams even had a little comment on that, which I was like, really? Really? Because there were plenty of question marks when Hernandez was drafted, okay? And a lot of teams felt this way. Aaron Hernandez sent out a letter to all 32 teams talking about how he's better, he's good, he will, be a good, citizen, an upstanding guy. Well, obviously the Patriots took a chance because they found, first round talent in the 4th round. And we all know how much Bill Belichick loves a friggin' bargain. And so the story goes that obviously Hernandez, shot a guy in Boston in his car. And I don't think it was a drive-by. I think he was standing on the sidewalk and, killed a guy in his car. But, Bob Holler of the Boston Globe, mentioned a story that, a guy that Aaron shot, he shot him in the eye. And then the guy was going to come after him, right? And he said it. He called him. He's like, I'm still alive. I'm coming after you when I'm done, when I'm healed. And Hernandez apparently went to Bill during the combine and said, I need to be traded. Can you please send me out west? Now, at this time, the Patriots just signed him either that offseason or the offseason prior to a 6-year, $40 million deal? Something along those lines, because he was great. He was a hell of a player. I can't imagine how different the 2010s would have been had Hernandez been a normal dude, not a sociopath. But that's, I don't really think about it that much because of his sociopathic tendencies. But Bob Holt talked about that story about him going to the combine and him asking to be traded because he fears for his child and his wife's safety. Meanwhile, Belichick said to him that, Aaron, we can give you all this protection. Like, we can have police cars. We can have armed guards, security. We can have everything provided for you. And then he turned that down and then just let it be. And so the whole point about that is Bob Holler, Ernie Adams, and I forget exactly if both Crafts said this, but I know Ernie Adams and Bob Holler did, that had he been shipped off to Seattle, everything would have been different. Like, are you stupid? Did you not read, any of the stories that came out of the University of Florida? Did you not do your research, or did the director forget to mention that? Did he forget that, there was a life to Hernandez prior to him being a Patriot? And I'm not even talking about his days in Bristol. I'm talking about his days at UF. Because the whole premise was, if Aaron Hernandez was not in New England, if he was not in New England and not in New York, I'm adding the New York bit, he would have been an upstanding citizen out west. If he was in Seattle, if he was in San Francisco, if he was in San Diego, he would have been an upstanding citizen. Sociopaths will find a way to do messed up shit. The man was on PCP, okay? He was a sociopath. He would have found a way. If he was in San Diego, I wouldn't be shocked if he became a Blood or a Crip. Like, why are we trying to just bury Bill Belichick like that? There were plenty of questions. And because of those questions, how interesting do you think NFL GMs would have been had the New England Patriots signed him to that big, massive deal, and then that offseason or the offseason later, whichever the time frame was, Patriots come calling saying, hey, we put Aaron Hernandez on the trade block. How do you think that would have gone? Do you think that the Seattle Seahawks would have chomped at the bit to sign Aaron Hernandez, or would they have done their due diligence, remembering the letter that they got just 3 years prior and realizing, well, the guy had a checkered past at UF. He hung out with a sketchy crew in Bristol in high school, and now he's in Foxborough, which is 2 hours from Bristol. Maybe he fell back into it and we don't want to be a part of it. Like, hey, Bill, thanks, but no thanks. And, you want to really get rid of him? Well, how does a 7th round draft pick 3 years down the road sound? Like, no, that wouldn't have happened because these guys know better. And to sit there and say that Aaron Hernandez would have been an upstanding citizen if he was even drafted by the Seattle Seahawks is out of this world stupid. Out of this world stupid and ignorant. So blaming Bill for Odin Lloyd's death because Aaron Hernandez was still around, to me, was I was ready to give up. Now, of course, I'm going to keep watching the rest of the show. Yeah, right. But I was so pissed. And I am so thankful that that survey I read to you earlier had Robert Kraft do very poorly when it came to the ownership group and how they were rated. Because, again, Aaron Hernandez went to Gainesville, Florida. Do you think that's right next door to Bristol, Connecticut? No. And what did he do at UF? He punched a guy in his ear, blew out his eardrum. He shot several people, if at least one person, while at the University of Florida. And Florida, like I said, is far away. He had his friends come down to Florida. Do you think making $40 million that he couldn't afford for his friends in Bristol to fly out to Seattle? Unbelievable. Just an absolutely unbelievable turn of events that Dynasty was. And it is sickening to me that I was one of these guys, and I will say it again. I was one of these guys that was like, I'm done with Bill. Thank you for your time. It's been a hell of a run with you, but you definitely need to go. To turn him from this guy that definitely needs to go into the sympathetic figure, and to have Robert Kraft, who not too long ago I thought was the best owner in sports. I thought he was the best owner to work for, a guy who cared, a guy who was a fan, and how much he talks about how he was a fan and he was one of us and he gets it and he wants to win, this, that, and the other. Just to have this all happen. You know, it's sickening to me. Absolutely sickening to me that Kraft now made me hate him. Not as much as I hate John Henry. Just to throw that out there. But then to have me actually say, Bill, like, you were even better than I remember. You know, you're such a, sympathetic figure because of the Dynasty, because of how they just pounded you into the dirt. And granted, he could help himself by elaborating, but he won't. He won't, because he doesn't trust the media. He doesn't trust people to accurately portray him. And as the Dynasty is doing, as the documentary is showing, he hit the nail on the head with that one, because there was nothing he could say, nothing he could do that would help him make his case. Nothing. And no matter how much he spun it in a truthful light that he knows, and the director in Kraft Productions, yes, Kraft Productions, would find a way to make him the bad guy, and even more of a bad guy, because he would be cold. He would sound cold and calculated by saying that, well, Aaron Hernandez, he was such a talented player that, yeah, when he got arrested, I didn't believe it. I was like, he's one of us. Like, how could one of the Patriots do something like that? That's the words that I think he would say. And not for nothing, those are the words I was thinking when I was sitting as an intern at MFS, reading ESPN.com, because let's face it, I was an intern. How much work did I really do? I was reading ESPN.com and plastered front page, first thing in the morning, Aaron Hernandez being walked out in cuffs. And I couldn't believe what I was reading. I was like, no, there's no way that a New England Patriot who followed the Patriot way would be so crazy. And obviously, the more I learned, the more I found out. I was like, yeah, the guy was a sociopath. He was crazy, doing all these drugs and, doing that. It was insane. It's insane. So I'm going to continue to watch the Dynasty because there are some cool bits. I'm not going to totally crap on it because I do love the behind the scenes. Like when you get the players talking and you see in the locker room action where Bill Belichick is dropping F-bombs when he says to Matt Castle recalls a story about Bill and how, he would have to write a letter to Castle's mother because he couldn't read the corner blitz because Castle's dead. It was perfect. It's hilarious. That's fun. That's interesting to watch. But to see them spin it the way they did, joke. Absolute joke. Well, I want to thank you guys for watching the Boston Sports Summit. I am your host, Tim Barnard. And don't forget, please, please, please like, share, subscribe. You got all my social medias underneath. Instagram, Boston Sports Summit, X, BOS Sports Summit. Then you got my YouTube, Boston Sports Summit. And obviously, you can find this show live every Wednesday on the Grid Network. Where is it? Right over there. So thank you so much. It's so much fun talking Boston sports. And let's face it, I'm just a local guy who's talking about the 4 teams that he loves. So thank you guys. God bless. And I'll see you next Wednesday. Peace.